our last class, graduation. I'll just say, I've actually thoroughly enjoyed this class. It's helped me tremendously to really get clear on the techniques that I'm teaching, and I really appreciated the engagement that you guys have brought and your diligence to the practice. And I've had a lot of fun. This has been a great experience for me personally. So I want to thank you all for showing up. Has anyone made it to every single class? I thought Dawn. I thought Dawn. You're the only one. Jackson, of course. Yeah. So good. And I know that we have a small group that actually clocks into the calls, but I think I had about 120 people registered for this class. So some people are watching it on the recording on YouTube. So for all of you guys out there that have been following along but haven't dropped into a live class, I appreciate you as well. And all right, let's kick it off. The last class. So last week we explored a little bit of bringing the practice into life, exploring challenging opportunities, working with turning toward difficulties in moments if that feels like the responsible thing to do, or turning away from something that might be a little too intense to deal with right now. And just walking that fine line between being gentle with ourselves, but not too gentle with ourselves, pushing ourselves into the sticky situations, the difficult feelings, but not being too demanding of ourselves. And that's very important in the practice. Really, in anything that we want to get good at, we can't be too gentle with ourselves and we can't be too easy on ourselves. There is the middle path. And in meditation, it always comes back to the middle path. So I'm curious to hear if anyone has anything they'd like to share that came up over the course of the last week of practice. Insights, observations, epiphanies, questions, comments, concerns, anything at all? Okay. So, yes, Rod, please.
Sorry, I was just waiting the last minute to make space for other people because I tend to talk a lot.
I appreciate you.
Thank you. My question is, like last week I mentioned like that dark type energy that was like flowing through.
Mm-hmm.
That's continued like every day, even when I'm not meditating, and it's been really, really good. Is that always just what's stored in my body? Is there any historic family lineage, like epigenetically, or is there anything else that inputs into that? Because I had a few really strange ones come up, so I wasn't sort of sure.
I'll ask you to tell me a little more. What do you mean about strange ones?
I feel a bit vulnerable sharing, but all right. In general, like it's been non-specific and mashed together. Like it's almost like there's a whole heap of different either thoughts, experiences, energies, feelings. That there was a few really bizarre ones. Like there was one where I felt like I was being violated, but that I was actually female. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
like I don't want to upset any women on the call. That's all I'm trying to be. But sure. I felt like I was being violated, and I'm not a woman. I've never done that. I've never fantasized about that or had those thoughts. But I just sort of wondered, like, wow, okay, so where did that pop up from?
So
why could I feel it in my body?
Sure. Would you describe that as feelings of, say, helplessness or shame or fear? Being violated.
Yeah, it was more. I didn't have those specifically. I feel like I'd be adding those on top. It actually felt like there was someone inside me against my will. It was just that kind of feeling. It didn't last long, and
sure.
it didn't feel.
Let me just pause you for a second. How would you describe it through the context of an emotion?
It was a swirling mix. I can't. There was too much stuff mixed in with it. I couldn't pinpoint one specifically.
Okay.
But I guess vulnerability. would probably be. Feeling vulnerable would be
Hmm.
the strongest. I guess helpless. Yeah.
Sure.
At some point,
So
it felt really exciting. So it was really, I mean, like it was a real mix and fast. So, but
yeah.
yeah.
So once again, you bring up a great um, talking point, which is something that I just addressed a moment ago, is knowing when to bear down in your practice, when to
Mm,
turn toward, and when to back off and focus away.
mm,
If you're finding that you have equanimity with these difficult feelings that seem to be triggered by your practice, then by
mm,
all means, keep going.
mm,
Remember, this is a liberation. You're liberating stuck emotional energy from your body
mm,
mind. And the more you can do that, the more empty you become, the more free you become. Remember, it takes an enormous amount of energy to hold that stuff
mm.
beneath the surface of our awareness. So as you continue to deepen your practice and get more and more still, your body starts to relax and unwind.
Mm.
In Zen they call it the great unwinding.
Okay.
Again, my teacher calls it the pool of poison and pain. Eckhart
Mm,
Tolle calls it the pain body. And we can go to our graves never having emptied these things. We can hold these knots with us until the day we die.
right. So there's no end
Or,
point for this.
oh, there is.
Oh,
Yeah,
good. Yeah,
there
right.
is. You can come to a point where you've liberated all the things that you never had the capacity to feel. Of life, the ups and downs, but you're no longer carrying the baggage of all the things that did happen.
Mm,
Now, you mentioned something about epigenetics. I can't speak too intelligently about that. What I
mm,
can say is in family systems, there are emotional regulation strategies that are passed down through the generations.
mm,
We learn how to be from our parents, who learn how to be from their parents, which goes on and on. Now, in some family systems, certain emotions are just not expressed. We don't do that here,
mm,
but others are welcome. And this varies from family system to family system. So if you were in a family system where, say, vulnerability or fear or shame was just not really welcome at the dinner table, we don't do that here. Just put a lid
mm.
on that. Then, of course, those are the qualities of emotion that are going to coagulate in your body and be liberated through your practice. The flip
Yeah.
side
Okay.
of that
Yep.
coin is there are emotions that are just welcome in certain family systems. Anger, for example, just to use it as an example. So then we can watch our minds generate anger the moment that our bodies are trying to liberate vulnerability. So
Mm,
I just want to make sure you guys are with me. Remember the four ways that we experience emotion: reaction to the conditions of the present moment, attunement with another individual, self generated emotion, which can be afflictive or positive, and liberation from the pull.
mm,
So if we're not training the mind to be in the moment, our body decides that it's a good time to release something that it's been holding on to for a very long time, but our mind notices that it's happening, and in 3/10 of a second, it generates some story to spare us from that old emotion. So, just to use as an example, let's say vulnerability, no good, anger, good. The moment that your body mind detects that release of vulnerability, it's going to tell you a reliable story that's going to make you mad.
mm,
Now you're stepping into an area of practice where you don't generate those afflictive emotions anymore. You're able to just be with what's happening as it's happening.
mm,
So there's no running into the mind to generate a story to spare you from the release. So you're able to ride the release.
mm,
The good news is it's a liberation. The bad news is it has to be felt on the way out. We can't skip
mm,
that step.
mm.
Make
Awesome.
sense?
Yeah, perfect. And my mind still does try and skip to stories. Like I haven't got this like down, but I can
Yeah,
come back
sure.
to being with
With
it. Yeah.
continued practice, you will, and then you can start to really get a feel for how you regulate.
Mm,
If you find yourself running the same old story, and if in a moment of wakefulness you realize, oh, I'm running some old script. What emotion is that generating? Anger. What's happening underneath this?
mm,
So then you can, every time you're running some story that's generating X, Y is happening at a deeper level.
mm. Yeah.
And then the option is to stop regulating afflictive emotions with afflictive emotions ride the wave of the terrible sadness, which is a phrase one of my teachers uses,
Mm.
but also recognize that after the wave subsides, you're still here
Mm.
and you're freer for staying in the difficult experience.
Mm.
And as you can see, this all takes an enormous amount of training and practice. It takes 3/10 of a second for the terrorists to take the building. It happens very quickly if we're not training the mind to stay in the moment. Make sense for you, Rod?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank
And
you
I
very
think
much.
everyone, thank you. It's actually a great talking point. I'm glad you brought it up. And I think everyone can benefit from that. And I'm sure everyone has had some uh, preview of that experience. And if not, you will with continued practice. Remember, this is not all about unicorns and rainbows. It's not about being masochistic and leaning into our trauma all the time. It's what? The middle path. So if no one else has anything they'd like to share, I would like to get right into the practice because I have a lot that I want to talk about tonight. And I want to make sure that everyone is leaving this class, our last class, confident about how to deepen their practice on their own moving forward. So let's take a period of practice now. So let's everyone come to your meditation posture. Then you can allow the eyes to close. You have the option to leave the eyes open if you like. Remember that we're looking for that middle ground between being completely relaxed and being upright, being alert, but being at ease. It's always a good idea to scan the body for any held habitual tension and just allow that to dissipate. Do whatever you need to do to relax. Just take a few moments to notice the rhythm of the breath. Allow the breath to ground us into this present moment and to warm up our concentration. Just notice when you're breathing in and notice when you're breathing out. And now letting the breath go and grounding your attention in the body. Beginning with feel rest technique. Allowing any visual or auditory sensations to play out in the background of your awareness. Bringing the totality of your attention to the physical body, both internal through physical sensation. Internal through emotional sensation and external through physical sensation. The object of focus is just to identify the quality of rest, locating any indicator of restfulness. It may be felt as a local sensation or it be global, spanning the entire body. recall that rest could be the feeling of relaxation, or it just could be the absence of any sensation whatsoever. It could be very subtle. It's okay. If you're able to locate rest as a local sensation, perhaps in the hands, just pour your concentration into that feeling. And through deepening your concentration, you may be able to experience rest as a global sensation. Feel rest. And now, having relaxed the body and mind and warmed up our skill of concentration, transition to the see, hear, feel technique. Practice in open awareness, no restrictions on your attention whatsoever. Just allow your attention to wander as it will, but note and label which of the three sense gates each sensory experience arises within. See, hear, or feel. If you notice that the mind has wandered, that's no big deal, just internal mental talk. Label here, return to the practice. Anything that is happening is grist for the mill. Once again, restricting your attention to feel space, both internal and external. Allowing any visual and auditory sensation to play out in the background, and this time detecting for the quality of flow. Remember that flow is just movement. Accessing the rhythm of the inhale and exhale is a reliable way to feel flow. You might experience it as a subtle vibratory quality at the edges of the body, any movement whatsoever. If you choose to use internal labels to ground the mind into the practice, labels are feel and flow. Remember that subtle is significant. And even if you're not able to detect the quality of flow, you're still strengthening the muscles of concentration, clarity, and equanimity just by trying. Once again, transitioning for the last few minutes of practice. Now, exploring feel good technique. You could use a pleasant visualization, some ideal situation you could see yourself in, engage in a positive behavior. You could repeat a soothing mantra. You could access a archetype or deity, saint. You could use those things as triggers to cultivate the feeling of positivity in the body. And once you're able to feel positivity, drop the visualization or the auditory mantra and allow the feeling of positivity to become the object of concentration. Remember, a very reliable way to cultivate positivity is just to bring a subtle smile to your face. When you smile, your whole body smiles. In a moment, we'll end this period of formal practice, enter dialogue and question and answer period. But before we do, take a moment to choose your background practice. Decide which technique you'll want to be working with during the QA. Bring that technique into daily life. When you're ready, you can allow your eyes to open. Does anyone have a question about the practice that we just went through? Or has anything come up for anyone that they want to discuss? technical questions or comments, anything at all. Shameen.
So, idea of releasing, and it falls in somehow fell in the fourth way we experience emotion, um, and it also the question comes also from me learning about other stuff on the side. For instance, there's this I've studied about something called the scale of emotions. We have the lowest anger, fear, guilt, and then you rise up. The highest one is love.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a scale of emotions. Is there is there a way you can cultivate the lower emotions and go in range and tap into all of them through the techniques you have discussed? Like feel, because right now, I think using the feel technique, um, whatever comes up, we label it or see the flow in it. What if we want to consciously um, tap into a certain emotion, an anger, fear, maybe somewhere from the past or from an incident, and then go through it and then try to rise up from there? And the end point may be the positive emotion. Am I making any sense?
I think so. Let me feedback what I think you're asking me. You're asking, is there a way to choose which poles we liberate? Say we have this hunch that there's anger trapped in our body, and we want to use this period of meditation to get rid of some of it. So you're talking about consciously cultivating anger or making yourself angry. So I think that would be a slippery slope. It's a great question. I wouldn't encourage you to do that, because if you're going into your practice with the intention of generating or cultivating or you know, thinking your way into anger, then it's not a release from the stored somatic part of the body. It's actually being experienced as a self-generated emotion. In some sense, we don't really get to pick when this stuff comes out. It's just kind of a rhythmic peristalsis contraction of nature. We just surrender to the flow of it. But I'm not sure that we really have the capacity to say, all right, you know what? Thursday morning, I got 45 minutes. Let's get rid of some shame. It doesn't really work like that. We just have to be available for what's happening. And we don't get to pick. I would not encourage you to consciously doing that. So as we step into the practice, the opportunity is there to stop doing that. And I'm not sure how fruitful that would be in your practice. Is that useful for you? Did I come close to what you were asking me?
Yeah, you have answered one part of the question. Is like, is it helpful for the practice overall? You've answered that part. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, because when on a day-to-day basis, whoever, whatever person you interact with, a certain emotion might pop up that you don't know. Maybe shame might pop up.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if you're talking to a man, a certain emotion, a woman, a certain emotion might just pop up. And my idea was to, is there a way, I can, with the practice of the daily meditation that I have, that you have been to maybe consciously and with equanimity handle it.
Sure. So I would say that you're already doing it, because every time you show up to practice, you're cultivating the three primary skills. And the one that we want to talk about right now is clarity. So you're really exercising that muscle of clarity, so that when you find yourself in a moment where there's some emotion present, you have the clarity to discern which of the four ways, which of the four places is this coming from. Is it a reaction to what's happening right now? Have I thought my way into this situation? Am I feeling something that's actually not my own? I'm just connected to another individual. And the more sensitive you become in this practice, the more real of a thing that becomes. Or is this actually a letting go of something I've been holding for a while? And with continued practice and greater skills, clarity, and sensitivity, you can differentiate those four with more and more um, confidence. So you're already doing what you mean. Keep doing what you're doing. And remember, in some sense, we just have to allow this practice to meditate us. But if you're doing it, it's working. Okay?
Thank you.
My pleasure. So there are some things that I want to talk about, and I want to be mindful of the time here. Would like to review the techniques that we did in this evening's meditation. I just kind of took you guys through everything we've done thus far, except for auto walk, obviously. But we started with the feel rest technique. Remember that feel rest and feel flow. What we're doing here is narrowing the range of focus and really training that skill of concentration. These two techniques start to familiarize us with the reward states of meditation. Flow is a pleasant sensation. Rest is a pleasant sensation. So we started to taste the fruits of practice. Oh, this is why people do this. It feels pretty good. Okay, this is self-motivating. Rest and flow are pleasant. The more I practice, the more pleasant feelings are available to me. We moved into see, hear, feel, and open awareness practice, just allowing attention to bounce around as it will. It's a great practice to do in life. Anything that is happening is an opportunity to practice with. Obviously, it's also a great technique to practice in your formal sitting periods. We explored feel good technique. One of the ways that we experience emotion is through self-generated emotion. Most of us have had the experience of running ourselves into fear, anxiety, sadness, whatever. And now we start to see that, oh, okay, I can actually use my mind to feel good. We can think our way into positivity. And furthermore, we can share that. It's a vibe and it spreads out from you. You can't keep it to yourself. So the more we fill ourselves up with that vibration of positivity, for us to share, we have to share. We can't keep it to ourselves. So in that way, the practice is service. As we move forward and you guys are cultivating your own daily practices, if your mind is consistently unkind to you, which is not uncommon for any of us in this part of the world, then I would encourage you to make feel good a foundation in your practice. Remember, when we can reliably cultivate positivity, that gives us the cojones to lean into some of the stuff that Rod was describing earlier that may happen in practice. So we have the courage to look into the dark back of the closet of our body mind if we know that if it gets too hot, then we can reliably back out into a technique that will help us to feel better. We can regulate ourselves. We can parent ourselves. We explored last week the technique or the strategy of turning toward. If something comes up that's interesting in your practice, then dive in. If you have the bandwidth for it, if there's difficult emotions coming up, but you feel you have strong equanimity and you feel that you want to dive into them, turn toward is one strategy. It's not always the right answer. Sometimes it might be feeling a little too hot, too heavy. Maybe life is very demanding, work is stressful, and you don't want the practice to be challenging that way. So then we have the option to back away and turn away. We can still stay in the practice, we just focus away from the difficulty. So let's say you're feeling a lot of anxiety in your practice and it feels old. It feels like old anxiety is coming up and coming through. You can turn away from it with a focus on positive technique or focus out, see out, hear out, feel out. These are all options for us. Remember that we have our daily meditation practice, our formal practice. We would describe formal practice as at least 10 minutes where we're bringing the totality of our attentional resources to a given technique. Typically that happens in stillness practice and seated practice, but you can choose an activity in life and you can make a formal practice period out of it. A shower, for example, or a commute to work or a workout. In addition to the daily formal practice, we have which is you're engaged in a technique. It's about 20% of your attention, but then you're also available for what's happening right now. No one would even really know that you're meditating. It's just a subtle background practice. Remember, every moment is the opportunity to cultivate the skills. And the deeper that we go into the practice, the more we find those opportunities for practice. And also we have micro hits. So micro hits would be anything less than 10 minutes where you're bringing the totality of your attentional resources to a given technique. It could literally be the span of one conscious breath. So the way you would use micro hits in your daily life is just to maybe bookend something, bookend an event. Let's say you have to have a conversation with your boss, but you want to take a 1 minute micro hit before the conversation and then a 1 minute micro hit after just to check in and regulate yourself. So these are the three ways that we bring practice into life. I'd like to talk a little bit about the rhythms of practice. So this 8-week course has been an exploration in life practice, which is what I just spoke about. Your formal practice, your background practice, your micro hits, turning toward, turning away. But another way to deepen your practice is retreat practice. Has anyone ever been on a meditation retreat? Cool, so quite a few of you. So retreat practice is amazing. Certainly the coming years, one of my goals is to offer retreat practices, so you'll all be made aware of those. But it's such a valuable opportunity to deepen your practice because you have entire days on end where there's nothing to do but meditate. And I actually really like to talk about meditation practice. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have about it. One of the beefs I have with it, I've done quite a few meditation retreats over the years. I think my first retreat was maybe around 10 years ago, and it was for 3 days, and it was pretty boring. And there was no like moment where I felt this amazing deep connection, or it just kind of came and went, and I spent most of the time wondering why I thought this was even a good idea and why I'm in the desert with a bunch of hippies and what have I become. And oh my God, I can't believe my life has come to this, that I'm on a meditation retreat. But somehow life unfolded. There was more space around me. There was more sensitivity. It's hard to articulate, but it just something shifted. So I was like, okay, there's something to this. So my motivation just deepened, and then over the years, a 3-day retreat became a 1 week, became a 2 week. I've sat for 4 weeks, and it's totally worth doing. The analogy that I like to use is we're on this path of self-knowledge, of growth, of understanding. The tool that we're using is our life practice, our daily meditation practice. And if you've all seen the movie Shawshank Redemption, you know that my man Andy Dufresne had that little tiny pickaxe that he was just chiseling away that cinder block wall. That's his daily practice. He just every day just showed up, and he made some real progress. Eventually he got free. But a retreat practice is like somebody came into Andy's cell and took that little pickaxe away and said, here's a drill. You have some time now to really dig into this wall. So retreat practice really pushes us forward, because when we remove all the external stimuli of life and work and the demands of relationship and family and all those things that are useful. But when we step away from them, we only have one responsibility, and that's to practice. We drop in very, very deep. We can drop in to a level that's not really possible to maintain in our ordinary lives because the mind has to be active to meet our responsibilities. So what happens on a retreat is your baseline really deepens. Your baseline of concentration, clarity, and equanimity touch a spot that's very deep, and it may not even be very obvious to you in the moment that that's happened because you're there the whole time, and because you're not speaking to anyone, there's no real um, contrast. Now, when the retreat's over, of course, you can't maintain that. And you really shouldn't. You have to bubble back up, but you won't bubble back up as high as you used to be on the surface level of reality. You still are a little, your baseline is shifted. And so then you go on another retreat. And then as the years go by, another one. And over the course of time, with dedicated retreat practice, the baseline deepens to the point where I can confidently tell you right now that my baseline of just walking around is deeper, if that's even the right word. My baseline of concentration, clarity, and equanimity is deeper than the deepest level that I could touch on retreat, say 6 or 7 years ago. So it's totally worth it because if I was to share that I'm going on a retreat with someone who doesn't have a practice, one of the responses that I get that really irks me is like, "Oh man, must be nice. Wish I had that kind of time. Sounds relaxing." And I'm like, "Motherfucker, you have no idea how hard this work is." Another thing is we can't, if you are to do a retreat, and the ones who raise your hand already know, we can't judge the value of an experience like that based on our present moment experience of it. So if you're on a retreat and you're having a really hard time and you're super bored and you're frustrated and you're feeling all this shit that you wish you weren't feeling, it's progress. So totally worth doing. And I'm gonna keep you guys in the loop as to the retreats that I'll be offering. And there are many other, if it's not with me, there are many other opportunities. If you feel called to do it, then do it. When I went on my 4-week retreat a couple years ago, some people thought that I'd lost my marbles. They thought that was kind of crazy. Why would you do that? But the way I thought about it was, let's say that you live to be 95 years old, 100 years old. If you're lucky, that's a long life. To take 4 weeks to sit still and be quiet seems like small potatoes. And that 4 weeks could change the course of the rest of your life. And it did change the course of the rest of my life. So think about the investment. 4 weeks might sound pretty intense if you're just beginning this practice. Go for 2 days, 1 day, 3 days. Start small, but it's totally worth it, and I would highly recommend it. So rhythm of practice, your life practice, retreat practice might feel like a good idea, and then we talk about getting support. So for a lot of you guys, you're curious about this, you're really wanting to dive into this practice. So having a teacher, a mentor, is a good idea. I have teachers and mentors because the path can get bumpy, maybe, and it's really useful to have someone to talk to if that's happening. Another thing is you can't see what you can't see, so it's very useful to have somebody who's just a little further ahead of you, so they can get a feel for where you're at because they've been there themselves and teach you what they did. Um, so I want you guys to know that I'm available as a resource if you feel called to deepening your practice. There's a few ways we can do that. If that feels like something you'd like to do, then you all have my email. Just drop a line, and I'm happy to be of service. And then life practice, retreat practice, getting support, and giving support. Now, giving support doesn't mean you have to become a teacher. Very subtle. You might find that through this practice, many of you have probably had this experience, you start to show up a little bit differently. You're more present. You're more there. you're more aware, you're more focused. So the opportunity for service becomes more and more obvious. And the way that you can give support can just be very subtle. It can just be a vibe. It can be lending an ear to someone. It doesn't have to be teaching them how to meditate. It can be much more subtle than that. And actually, one of the phrases that I like, I know this is a secular class, and for the record, I wouldn't call myself a Buddhist, but there is an expression that I love. It says, when I became a Buddhist, I alienated most of my friends and family and annoyed a lot of people. When I became a Buddha, I found people were coming to me with their problems and I was able to help. So before we start pontificating about how important it is that people should be meditating, make sure that this practice is really in our bone marrow. Now, that said, it might be appropriate for some of you guys to recommend the practice to people in your life who are interested or speak more or um, point people in this direction. Just use what's the word I'm looking for? Like tact, or what am I trying to say? Like, if someone's giving you some shit, don't be like, yeah, you should meditate. You need to meditate. No one likes to hear that. So the rhythms of practice, life practice, retreat practice. And again, if anyone is curious about retreat practice, drop a line and I can give you some resources. I don't have my things together yet where I'm ready to offer retreats. It's something I want to be doing. But if you're ready to go on retreat and you can't find one on your own, then drop me a line and I'll help you. Life practice, retreat practice, getting support and giving support. The rhythms of practice. So what I want to do right now, I should have asked you guys at the outset of class to grab a pen and paper. I see some of you already do have a pen and paper, but can everyone grab that within the next 10 seconds? Wait for Fergus to get back. Okay, so the first thing I want you guys to is ways that you've brought this practice into your life thus far, and brainstorm some new ways that you could do that. It's going to take about 2 minutes. It doesn't have to be the great American novel. I just want you to open up that channel. The ways you've brought this practice into your life thus far, and brainstorm some new ways that you could do that. So you can continue to feel into that question. And the next one would be to strategize your daily plan to continue to deepen your practice. What is your practice going to look like moving forward? It could be what techniques you want to focus on. It could be formal practice, background practice, micro hits. It could be that what you're going to do actually is sit down maybe tomorrow and take an hour or so and really map out a practice regimen that you're going to stick to. And the last thing I want you guys to reflect on is just take a moment, put pen to paper, and consider the ways that you're going to get support moving forward. Remember that I'm a resource for you, but it could just be maybe you want to read another book, or there's virtual communities you could join, or maybe there's a community in your neighborhood you want to drop into. And you just want to say, hey, let's hold each other accountable in this practice. And maybe once a week we'll grab tea and talk about it. Many, many ways. But getting support is very useful. Yes, Rod.
At the start of this course, you recommended a couple of books, one of which I've read, which was the Science of Enlightenment by Shinzen Young.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I think, one of two that I wrote down, but I think there was 5 that you recommended all up. Do you have any idea what they were?
I don't think I recommended 5 books for this course. Maybe you got your wires crossed with some tribe stuff. Am I right about that, Jackson?
Yeah, I only remember the Science of Enlightenment.
I can circle back to you, Rod, and let you know the other books.
Yeah, sweet. Thank you.
So some things for you guys to think about. Now, I would love, we might go a few minutes over 8 o'clock if that's okay with everybody. Does anyone have an absolute hard out at 8 o'clock sharp? It's the last class, all right? Let's stick around. But we won't go too far over, I promise. I'd just like to give anyone an opportunity to ask questions if there's anything on their mind about anything at all, or about cultivating the practice, developing a routine, choosing a technique. Martina.
I have a personal question about the practice and then another question. But the first question, with feel rest, I feel like I really easily slip into feel flow. Like feel flow feels really natural to me, whereas feel rest, I feel like, yeah, it just feels like it turns into feel flow, and I kind of lose the rest bit because the flow takes over and it feels more natural, I guess. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So I have a very similar experience, and I don't think it's a wall. I think it's a window. My question for you would be: is your experience of flow pleasant?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So if that's the case, then you could almost use feel rest as a way to access flow.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that's not a problem at all.
Okay. Sweet.
Okay?
Cool. And my other question was, I know that the videos from the course have been on YouTube for us to watch, and I went and watched last week's. Are they there for other people? So if somebody was interested, like if I was talking to somebody and they were interested in what we've been covering here, could I say to them, go check out the videos on YouTube?
Yeah, absolutely. Those videos are just going to be there. They're going to exist in the interweb. So sure, the more people watch them, the better. Feel free to share.
Sweet. I'd mentioned it to a friend, and yeah, I wasn't sure if it was like, go ahead and watch them all. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a free class. This is for everybody. So
cool.
Spread the word.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Fergus.
I just noticed in doing the functional plan side of things, straight away I got this really strong resistance came up around the plan. I don't like plans.
Sure. Yeah, I can relate to that. So is there a question there or just an observation?
No, it was just how strongly it came up. It was just really the fact that I noticed it in writing it down, I think. So yeah.
Sure. So good on you. You're feeling emotional clarity and sensitivity. You notice resistance as it was arising in the present moment. I can speak to that in this practice and moving forward, do what you can do. You don't have to white knuckle it or put your feet to the fire. Again, it's the middle path of not being too rigid with our practice, but not being so relaxed that we don't ever actually get to the cushion. So I've gone through rhythms of practice where it's like, all right, I'm going to sit down and plan out the next 5 months of practice. This is the technique that I'm going to be doing. And then it gets to the point where it feels too tight and too restrictive. I don't want to do that anymore. So my practice relaxes, and then it gets more intense and relaxes. It's just the rhythm. So allow for the rhythm. But if you find that you're an individual who really resists structure, then it might be a good idea to lean into that and develop structure. Yeah. So good luck navigating that terrain, Fergus. Cara, yes, please.
G'day. I feel Fergus exactly the same way. I'm really resistant to structure. And so, you know, being here now with you all, I can talk about how many benefits I've received from this course, the insights, and it feels really good. And I want to keep that going. And so, you know, that's my commitment to myself and to the group, that I will continue doing that and doing it, to keep showing up on my mat and just doing it, because I've got a small insight now into how beneficial it can be and how I can pay this forward in so many different ways in life. And and be the message. And it's just, it feels awesome. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm really happy to hear that. This practice works if we do it.
Yeah.
Just got to do it. That's the tricky part.
Damn straight.
Yeah. Good for you, Cara. Good for you. Anyone else have anything they'd like to share? Jimmy?
Yes, I just got one question around so I was reading a book the other day, and I was trying to do some micro hits while reading. Can you hear me okay? All cool?
Yep.
And then it came to me that, yes, I am seeing in that moment, I see, but then I'm also hearing what I'm reading at the same time in sync. Now, I think originally you said that they might cross over, but there is one more than the other. But to me, consciously, I felt the connection of that was also almost together. Yeah, as you read a book, it's I'm seeing and I'm hearing the inner voice at the same time. So my question is, I suppose the crossover. I'm a little bit confused on that. That potentially in the future, I think as you go deeper, the consciousness level will actually sync up all together as one, to have nothing. Would that be right? Or, or something I could explore more?
I think it's something you got to explore more, man. I think it's a great insight. I think that reading and hearing internal mental talk is a great example of maybe something occurring simultaneously. I think if you were to look deep at it, you might see that there's a bit of a temporal shift in when one thing happens in the other. But then you said at the end goal of this path is to see that everything is the same and happening at the same time. I'm not going to disagree with you, man. I'm just going to encourage you to keep going.
Yeah, because wouldn't you think, like, to be present completely in the moment, there is actually there is nothingness, just a flow of energy, obviously, and sensorially whatever's happening in that moment. But there is, in a way, nothing happening, but at the same time, a lot happening.
Yeah, this is where we can get hung. Might say nothing is happening. Another tradition might say everything is happening. One tradition might say there is no self. Another tradition will say it is all self. But they're all, I think, pointing toward the same experience, which is the thing that you're pointing toward, which is the annihilation of a personality and the unitive experience with the totality.
Yeah.
And I think if you continue to show up to the practice, and I think it's useful to think about these kind of things, but that sometimes the chewing over these concepts just kind of gets in the way of practice. So let's err on the side of direct experience. And even in the see, hear, feel practice, when you get really concentrated and really deep into it, you might have an experience where it's difficult to even tell when a sensory arising is happening in see space or hear space or feel space. It all becomes very connected and flowy. So you could have that direct experience with practice. It's not to say that you shouldn't think about these things. They're totally worth thinking about, but I don't think the thinking mind is the thing that's going to get us there. It actually might end up being an obstruction.
Is there some sort of awareness, third eye, that is almost so I think in martial arts, like you can almost predict the move before the move happening, or the intuition is so intact, and the third eye is such aware of sensorially what's happening that sorry, I don't know how to explain that, but I think it's something to do with the present moment that what I'm trying to work with, or I'm not thinking when I'm trying not to think when I'm meditating.
No, I understand. Yeah, I understand completely. I think that you're in a great spot and you're on the verge of insight and you're thinking about very deep questions, and that will only serve you. I think I got to get down to Australia so you and I can have a cup of tea and continue this conversation.
Oh, man.
All right.
I'll start boiling the hot water.
Cool. Thanks,
cool, man.
Jimmy.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. And I will say this real quick. One of my favorite parts of this class was when you tuned in from a helicopter. You still haven't explained that to us, and you don't have to. So I would just like to close class tonight by hearing from you all. And I just want to go around here, and I want you guys to tell me one thing that you've learned from this class, maybe about the practice of mindfulness or meditation that you didn't know before. So we'll keep it. We're already 10 minutes over, so I don't want this to take up too much time, but just want to hear from you guys. So let's start with Jackson. Put you right on the spot.
I think just having the understanding of clarity, equanimity, and concentration has been really useful in applying just that languaging and understanding or being able to explain to myself or to others about what I'm actually cultivating. Whereas before I didn't have those things. Just mindfulness, be present, be in the moment, but like what are the actual concrete things that are being developed here? So it's made it, that vocabulary has made it a lot easier for me to transmit the benefits of meditation to myself in a moment and to other people as well.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Gold Star student, perfect attendance, Dawn Davis.
First of all, thank you so much, Michael. This has been amazing. I mean, I've been meditating for a long time off and on, but I haven't had, I think similar to Jackson, I don't think I've had some structure around these types of mindfulness practices or an awareness of what they were or how they could be used. And I've had an incredibly challenging year that I'm still in the middle of, and it's really helped me to, the meditation I was doing, it had to be a formal practice. And this has given me tools that I can use in my day with all these different things that I've been dealing with and trying to handle. It's really prevented things from getting worse. And it's helped me in very stressful moments. It's helped me with really difficult emotions. So it's been very practical. And I thank you for that.
Thank you for showing up. Michael Sims?
I think one of the best things I got out of this was structure. Being relatively new to this, I didn't know where to start. and I didn't know what map to follow. So reading different books or things on the internet just made me really confused, and this was a really great way to start a practice that I can actually have some guidance on and know what I'm looking for, and that's helped out tremendously. And there's a lot of the micro hits and the feel flow that I've really found a lot of use for. So I've been very grateful for that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michael. Fergus.
Equanimity, and also your phrase, which in some way pisses me off each time you say it, but it's so true, is it's all grist for the mill. I think that's that reminder. I'm in there battling away and, oh yeah, fuck, this is grist for the mill. So I think that there's, just the core truth in that, and has been really useful. And just actually watching you model the three parts of the meditate that we're looking at in how you've presented this has been brilliant, going from having that humor in it, the depth, all those things. So that's been amazing to witness. So thank you.
Thank you, Fergus. Rod Gordon.
Wow. I don't know where to start. You've guided my meditation journey for quite some time now, so I feel like I had a beautiful head start, but this course itself has taken me to depths of practice that I didn't know were available, and I'm super grateful for that. Just want to say hello to Fergus because I haven't seen him for months. I think everything that's been said so far, like I love the terminology, the clarity, equanimity, and concentration, clarity and equanimity. Just having those labels gives me almost a direction and a focus for my meditation, but also it gives me tools to communicate and talk about them. And also just helps me to understand exactly what it is I'm cultivating. It does, like I think one of the other men said, makes it concrete. So it feels beautiful to have all that, and I'm really grateful for that you put this together and shared it with us for free over 8 weeks. So thank you so much. And I'm just feel so grateful and proud to call you a teacher or my teacher. Thank you.
Thanks, Rod. Thanks for showing up. And I do want to say that, I didn't develop this curriculum. This is unified mindfulness. This was taught to me. I'm just paying it forward. So all credit due to my teacher. But thank you very much, Rod. Shamim.
Yeah, I just wanted to second what everyone has said. The language, the structure, clarity, equanimity, concentration really hit me deep and showed me the light, showed me a map where I can consciously apply them to my inner space and also the outer space. And also it cleared up a lot of things where I can have deeper insights on a day-to-day basis. And it just pops up from, you don't know any time, like when I wake up in the morning, when I go to sleep. And I credit this to the practice. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Keep going. Martina.
Very similar to what others have said. I've loved the feeling of structure and being held through it, and the way that the tools have been like for practice, but also very easy to apply to life. And that sense of developing clarity, concentration, equanimity. So thank you very much. I've enjoyed it a lot.
Thank you for showing up. Jimmy.
Yes, I think what's been beneficial for myself is the micro hits and the understanding of you don't have to sit. And I probably knew this previously, but I haven't really experimented to the greater detail of this meditation technique. So in terms of being able to meditate the whole day, and that's what I micro hits all the time, and being more available in those moments to people, where previously I'm now aware that I haven't been as available as I'd like to be. So that's so I'm much grateful for that. You know what I mean, to being of service, I suppose, to people. If they're going to talk to me, I'd rather hear them properly.
Yeah.
You know, instead of being disconnected. So the micro hits for me really, really invaluable. Oh, cool.
Totally, man. Thank you, Jimmy.
Right on. Cheers.
Cara.
Hey, yeah, I've really enjoyed doing the background practice. It's just allowed me to be so much more present when I'm communicating with people, which was a rarity. And all I have to compare it with is how things have changed for me in the past 8 weeks, and that has been a really noticeable difference, which has been great. What I've also loved is the simplicity of the way that all the information has been delivered. Like, I've never had meditation explained to me in this way before, and they're a proven workable. This is a proven workable method, but there's tools that can be applied, and it just frees up that question everyone has. I can't meditate. I'm shit at meditating. It's like, well, if you apply these tools, then you can do it too. And I love the fact that we can, that simple message.
Thank you, Cara. I love that phrase, be the message.
Thank you.
Richard Sauer.
Well, I want to thank you for offering your gifts to all of us. And what you made me realize about meditation when you and I had a one-on-one is about it's okay to whether you're feeling the pain or feeling anxiety. That's part of the practice. Moving through that and feeling into that. And I know consistency is better than spotty practice. And I actually printed out myself a calendar so I can make sure that I list my times on there when I'm meditating.
Good.
Because I could become late, not on purpose, but
yeah. Good for you, Richard.
But thank you again.
Thank you. I'm glad you showed up, and keep going. And so there's somebody here that is called in, or I can't see you, and it says Michael holding the screen. I'm not sure.
Oh, it's me, Isaac.
Oh, Isaac, let me hear it.
Buddy. Yeah. What was it? It just slipped my mind.
Yeah, just one takeaway. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, cultivating positivity and positive mental states and relaxation.
Nice. Pretty sweet. Yeah. Stick with it. So again, I want to thank all you guys for showing up. I've thoroughly enjoyed this course, and it's something I want to continue, so you'll all be notified as for future offerings. Before I forget, I have one favor to ask of anyone who feels called. If you felt served by this class and you'd be willing to write up just a couple sentences about a testimonial, it would help me to market future classes. So it doesn't have to be the next great American novel, just a few sentences about what you're taking away from the class. I would really appreciate it. I am a resource for anyone who wants to deepen their practice moving forward, or if you just have a question somewhere down the line. We're all connected to you guys all now, so you have my email. So just drop a line, and I'll do my best to get back efficiently. Cara, you have a question before we close?
Yeah. Just with, I'd love to write a testimonial. That'd be rad. Would you like me to email it to you or put it on Facebook or on Google? What's the best platform for you?
Yeah, well, if you want to put it on Facebook, that's cool. I don't check Facebook so often, but I would appreciate if you email it directly to me as well, because I'll use it for future marketing stuff.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, and I'll just reiterate, I'm a resource for you guys. If it's a formal mentorship, fine. If not, if something's coming up in your practice, reach And I want to wish everyone a happy and healthy holiday season, peaceful and prosperous new year. And this concludes our 8-week class. Keep going. Keep practicing. Thank you all.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael. You're
One
awesome.
great Australian novel coming up.
You've got it in you.
All right, you guys. You have a good night.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.